Joining us now, Republican presidential candidate Mike Huckabee, fresh off his surprising second-place finish at the recent Iowa straw poll. Governor Huckabee, congratulations and welcome back to Fox News Sunday.
Well, thank you, Chris. Pleasure to be back.
Since the Ames poll 2 weeks ago, how much of a boost to your campaign? How much money have you raised since then? And in what other tangible ways have you gotten some kind of an Iowa bounce?
Well, people that wouldn't return our calls are now calling us. That's a good thing. 3.2 million hits to the website. We've scheduled fundraisers in about 16 states now through the middle and end of October. So we've, I think, raised probably more money in the last couple of 3 weeks of August than we had, in a previous couple of 3 months. So, I mean, online. And so, in other words,
how much?
I don't know the exact figures. And of course, if I told you, I'd have to take your life. So I couldn't give you that. But it's substantially more. And I think that the thing for us is we're seeing a momentum that we just weren't seeing before. People sort of holding back, wondering, did we have the traction? And now they have truly begun to understand that our campaign, even with limited resources, had a spectacular showing in Iowa, and they know that with resources, there's no reason we couldn't catapult to the front.
But it's still going to be a tough, long slog. And let's take a look, if we can, at the Fox News Opinion Dynamics poll that's out this week. It shows, as you can see there, you're still in sixth place at 3%. So what's your strategy? How do you become, from still quite a long shot, how do you become a frontier candidate?
Well, so far we've been everything from no shot to long shot, now to slingshot. And I think we're at a point where, as we look for the next level, it's really as our message is connecting, and it is. The polls really don't reflect the core voters. It reflects name identification, which improves with each debate. It improves with each showing, like Iowa. But what really is showing up, when we were in New Hampshire last week, everywhere we went, we were expecting certain numbers of crowds, maybe 50 people. We'd have 200. So we're seeing anywhere from 2 to 4 times the number of people come out and enthusiastically receiving the message that I'm giving. People, I think, appreciate that it's not a message that sounds like it's come from a room full of consultants. It's come from a candidate's convictions. And there's sort of a refreshing acceptance that people are looking for somebody who can honestly say what he believes and believes what he says.
You talk about New Hampshire. There is talk that you're planning to ambush Mitt Romney in his own backyard of New Hampshire, following the model of Pat Buchanan when he was running against George H.W. Bush and Bill Clinton against Paul Tsongas. One, is it true? And two, how do you plan to do that?
Well, I wouldn't call maybe the strategy ambush. We're going after a victory there. And it's not an ambush. It's a straight up, we're trying to win. I think we will win.
Why New Hampshire?
Because voters there are very savvy. They look for a person who truly has the convictions and sticks by them. Even if it's not necessarily what they agree with, they want you to look them in the eye and give them a straight answer and give it to them the same way tomorrow as you gave it to them today. They want someone whose views on the Second Amendment understand that the basic issue is one of freedom and it's not hunting. They want somebody who talks about true tax reform, like the fair tax. They embrace that idea in New Hampshire when I talk about it, a complete just gutting of this incredibly complex and arcane tax code we have, and replace it with a simple consumption tax that really elevates our economy, gives it a fresh start. People like those kind of ideas that are bigger and fresher than the carefully tuned and tweaked sort of version of minor reform. That's just not what New Hampshire voters, I think, are expecting and looking for in their next president.
I keep getting a subtext in a lot of your answers, and in fact, you've been even more explicit in going after Mitt Romney recently. And let's take a look at that. You said leadership is not about having enough money that you can buy the presidency. You also introduced yourself to New Hampshire voters this way. Here's a guy who didn't just become pro-life to run for president. Here's a guy who didn't just read the latest issue of NRA magazine and decide he's going to be for the Second Amendment. When did nice guy Mike Huckabee become an attack dog?
I don't think I'm an attack dog. Certainly there's going to be contrast, and I didn't mention anybody's name, and it could apply to several Republican candidates.
Including Mitt Romney?
There's a saying in the South, Chris, we like to say, if you throw a rock across the fence, it's the hit dog who hollers. So the point being that sometimes if people start reacting very just vociferously to something said, maybe there's a reason they're reacting to it. I'm going to continue to show that there is a different kind of Republican in this race. And I want to talk about what's going to really bring this party back together, because we're pretty fractured right now, and what can give us the juice to not only bring the party together, but how can we win in 2008? And it's going to require a message that captures the imagination and attention of a lot of voters out there in America who kind of are turned off of the Republicans right now.
And let's talk